Hello everybody, welcome back to another Hof Bergmann Explained video for Farming Simulator 22. Today we're going to talk about grain meal and flour production. But before that, this video is brought to you by Dirty Diesel and Time-Lapse Sim Gamer. Thank you for being farm barons. So on Hof Bergmann for Farming Simulator 22, as of the 1.0.0.1 release, grain meal and flour really are dead end products, and I really wouldn't suggest diving into a lot of production of grain meal or flour, because right now you cannot sell either other than basically setting the production to auto sell. Let's take a look here at our prices screen, and if we come down here, you're going to find that, for example, flour is completely missing from this list. Right? There's no way to sell flour based on this pricing list. Now, we also have grain meal here, but there's no selling stations listed. So as of 1.0.0.1, I really would not advise going whole hog into grain meal production or flour production. I've got a pretty good idea that grain meal and flour will be brought forward as something else in a future update. So, for example, in a past Hof Bergmann map on Farm Sim 19, and I think even in Farm Sim 17, we had the ability to make bread with flour, right? So I could see us making whole meal bread or whole grain bread with possibly this grain meal and regular bread with flour. Or I could see grain meal as being involved some way with respect to animal food production. But for now, if you do make it, you're going to need to set it to auto sell. So let me just show you where we are on the map. This is where the grain meal production is. We have grain mill, whole meal, that's grain meal. Then we have the grain mill for flour. Both of these will accept wheat, barley, oat, and sorghum, although on the map it is listed as millet when you look at the production chain section. We're going to come up here and we are going to dump to the side. We're going to be putting wheat in for our grain meal, and we're going to be putting barley in for our flour. So if we come back to our production screen, you're going to see that we now have wheat in our grain meal facility, and that is by dumping it here in the side. We can go inside and talk to the mill operator. And you can see we have grain meal. We're going to activate that. And ultimately, if we want to bring grain meal out of the facility, I wouldn't do it because there's no way to sell it at this point as of 1.0.0.1. But if you wanted to store it for some reason, then this is where you would pull it out of the factory. As far as flour production, the dump station for the flour production is around back. And we'll talk to the flour mill operator around front of the building. You see that now we are adding our barley. We now have barley in our flour mill. If we come around here, we can talk to Mr. Flour Mill Operator and activate our barley. Now that we have a little bit of grain meal, we can go over here and I'll demonstrate that we can pull grain meal out. There we have a little bit of grain meal. But also, as of the 1.0.0.1 release of Hof Bergmann for Farm Sim 22, there isn't a way to pull flour out of the facility. So the output does not work for flour. There's no output trigger as of 1.0.0.1. So the only way to sell flour is going to be set it to selling. And like I said, the only way to sell grain meal is to set it to selling. And now that we have set it to selling, we're going to go up here to our finances screen. We're going to see that we have no money for sold products for today. We go ahead and fast forward time to just before the top of the hour. Let's take a look, and you can see that we now have 1,609 liters of grain meal produced and 831 liters of flour produced. And then when we bump into the next hour, we are going to earn a little bit of money. So you see we now have $3,366 in sold products. We have indeed sold our flour, and we have indeed sold our grain meal. So we have earned a little bit of money from the production of grain meal and the production of flour by setting it to auto selling. The grain meal, that you pull out of this facility, you can store at the silo at the main farm. But other than storing it as of 1.0.0.1, I cannot stress this enough, as of 1.0.0.1 of Hof Bergmann for Farming Simulator 22, there's no other use that I can find for grain meal, and there is no way to pull flour out of the facility. So if you want to make flour, you're going to have to set it to auto sell. If you want to make grain meal, set it to auto sell for now. I suspect in a future update, we will see that grain meal and flour have distinct use scenarios for them. So if you want to get kind of a jump, you could produce flour and you can produce grain meal and just have it set here, storing it. But other than that, there really isn't much use for either grain mill at this point as far as production. So guys, that is going to conclude our Hof Bergmann Explained videos for version 1.0.0.1. We will revisit Hof Bergmann when it does get updated to a future update to see what new things have been added to it. And we will be expanding our Hof Bergmann Explained series as the map is updated and new things are added. And that is why on the thumbnails, they all have the map version listed. So as new videos come out, you'll see the map version that the video corresponds to on that thumbnail. Let me know what you all think of Hof Bergmann for Farm Sim 22. What do you all think of our Hof Bergmann Explained video series? And I'll see you all in the next one.